everyone, this is Melissa, teaching artist and art therapist with Project Create. Project Create is a community-based nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C. that provides free art education and enrichment classes to children, youth, and families. Today I'm going to show you something really exciting using basic materials that you can find in your home. We're going to be creating marbleized paper with watercolor and oil. So here's some examples of ones that I did today. I used a little bit of food coloring and oil. And you can see all the different colors, all the different patterns and strips. This is a really exciting project. So what you're going to need for this project is vegetable oil, different food coloring, a little pitcher with water, a few small containers, a little dropper if you have it, a spoon, a fork, and these are some teaspoons. And then a shallow dish, like a baking dish, works really well. You're also going to need some paper. Watercolor paper works well, but if you don't have that, you can use any other kind of paper. A thicker paper is best. If you have baking racks, you can also use these. These are great to help you dry your papers. And this project tends to be a bit messy, so paper towels, you're going to need lots of paper towels. Also, I recommend you not wear your best clothes for this project. The dye will definitely stain clothing and even stain your fingers. So be prepared. So to get started, you want to prepare your colors. I already got this one started. You're going to take oil and a little bit of food coloring. What I did is I did a half a teaspoon of food coloring. And then a half a teaspoon of oil. And you can obviously work with as many colors as you want, but I think I'm just going to stick with 3 today. I have a purple, a lime green, and a pale blue. And I'm just cleaning my teaspoon a little bit so the colors don't get contaminated. Now for the blue, half a teaspoon. And a half a teaspoon of oil. Oops, it's a little more than I wanted. Extra blue just to balance it up. Doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want too much oil. The next part is you're going to have to mix the oil and the paint together. And you're going to notice that as you do that, the paint and the oil are going to be kind of speckly like that, you want to keep mixing. And it might take a little while. That looks, the consistency of that looks a little bit better. That's kind of what you want. And you can tell it's still a little bit speckled in there. I want it to be a little smoother. I'm just going a little more time. And I'm just going back and forth with my fork. It's almost like beating an egg. You really want to mix it well, because I found that if you don't, then the color just sinks to the bottom when you do the actual marbleizing process, and you want it to kind of float on the top. That's what gives it the really pretty colors on the paper. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. And then the purple one. You might have to go back and mix the paint and the oil again. Okay, I think that's all right. Now that the paint is, it seems like it's basically ready, we're actually going to be working inside this dish. So you're just going to pour a little bit of water, just enough to cover the bottom of the dish. You don't want too much water. So that just about covers it. That's just a little bit of water. A little bit more. Now I think we're ready. This process is a little bit of a trial and error. So I actually prepared lots of paper here, and different sizes of paper as well. So to get started, if you have a dropper, you're going to take your dropper and you're going to suck up a little of the color, and you're just going to start to drop it into the dish. And you can see the color starting to spread everywhere. It's really pretty. And if you're curious how that looks with paper, I'm kind of curious what the blue just looks like. You can test it out just by taking one of your papers and setting it on top. Moving it around a little bit and then lifting. And there's your very first paper. That's a gorgeous color. Gets really exciting though once you start to add more colors. So I'm going to try a little of the purple. And maybe I want to see what just the blue and the purple looks like. Oh, wow. And there's our next one. And I think now it's time to see what happens when we add the green. And then lift it up. Very dramatic. I might even just do a couple more with a smaller paper. This is a longer one actually. And I'm just pushing it down with my fingertips. And that one's much paler. So this is the fun part. This is just when you start to experiment a little bit by adding different colors, adding a little more purple, maybe a little more blue. I do one on one side and one on the other side. Slowly let them get saturated and then lift. And it might be fun to move it around a little bit back and forth to get the effect that you want. Add some more green. I have a little bit bigger paper here. Ooh, very nice. Papers take a while to dry, and since we're working with oil, they'll be a bit oily, but they'll dry and it won't be as oily. Let's see if I can just pick up any excess. Starting to notice that my colors are starting to get really speckled again, so I think I have to mix them a little bit more. And see if the green is starting to get really speckly. I want it to be smooth. And you can think about putting colors inside of colors, seeing what happens when you do that. And that one came out really dramatic. And eventually you might find that the water gets a little bit murky, and you might want to start with fresh water. That one came out really bright too. Every one of these is a little piece of artwork. And it seems like the more you put in there, the more interesting the papers get. And after you dry, you'll have all these little beautiful papers you can work with. You can keep just as their own little pieces of artwork, or you might want to use them as scrapbooking or bookmaking or some other project. Now, if you don't have the dropper, you can always, like I mentioned, you can use a spoon. And you can drop the colors in with a spoon. I'm putting a whole lot of color in now because I'm just about at the end of my colors here. In fact, there's so little left, I'm just going to drop it in. For just a few more prints. Well, these last few pieces are really vibrant. There's a lot of paint in here. So when you decide to finish your project, terms of cleanup, you want to be careful about just dumping down the oily water down the drain, because too much oil can clog your drain. So it might be a good idea just to take some paper towels and dry up any of the excess oil and water, and then you can just throw it away like that. And you'll also find that your fingers are pretty dyed. Not to worry, after a shower or a bath, they'll be back to normal. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy experimenting with some of these basic home supplies using the dye and the oil and making marbleized papers. I would love to hear about what you thought of this and see some of the papers that you created. You can email me at programs@projectcreatedc.org. Thank you. See you later.